Hi, my name is Shannon Fisser. I'm also known as Shan. Before my tragedy, I lived a normal life in South Africa. I became a quadruple amputee due to septicemia. I was in a coma for nearly 2 weeks in early 2017. While I was in the coma, my hands, feet, nose, and lips died, and I was told I needed to have my hands and feet amputated. To date, I've had 66 surgeries, with approximately 20 more to go, to reconstruct my jaw, mouth, and nose. I have remained positive through all of this and believe that can't is not a word, and that you can accomplish anything you put your mind to.
It's about me, isn't it?
It is about you. This show is to motivate and inspire others through my story as well as my guest story. Welcome to my show. Today I have an amazing guest with me by the name of Costa. Costa has gone from the depth that you can't imagine, being a crystal meth addict, to an amazing Ironman medal winner. Welcome, Costa, to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I just wanted to find out, what was life like before you became an addict?
So I'm one of those stories where I had a very loving, regular upbringing. I come from a loving family, was very well cared for, great schooling, and had everything that a little boy wants to grow up with. But inside there was something going on, and that was a pain that I felt as a very young boy. And I attribute that to bullying at school. I was the skinniest, the smallest, the most feminine, the odd one out. And I didn't know where to put myself. You know, I was like a round
The little box of society.
Exactly. And, you know, kids can be exceptionally cruel. And then at age 12, I had my first drink. It was a friend's bar mitzvah. I was 12.
Okay.
And I didn't have one glass. I had
the whole bottle.
I had the whole bottle. I was this little tiny boy who then got very drunk. And for me, getting drunk felt good. And the one thing I can say is, for the first time in my life, the pain was switched off.
Yes.
And it wasn't about fitting in. It wasn't really about being the cool kid or anything.
Because all those worries went away.
It was about not feeling.
Yes.
And I didn't want to feel. And that's where it all started.
And how did you go from alcohol to meth? Was there other addictions in between?
Yep, absolutely. I was a very big partying, high achieving, addictive nature kind of guy. I had a very addictive nature. I couldn't have one cigarette, had to have the whole packet. Couldn't have one drink, had to have the whole bottle. Nothing was ever half measures. And I went to varsity, and in South Africa, it's pretty easy to always have an excuse to drink.
Yeah.
There was always a reason to drink and to have fun. And I was the life and soul of the party. Nobody really thought I had a problem because, you know, Costa's had charm and charisma and could dance a lot. And, you know, but then it really got bad when I lived in Durban, where the one day I arrived at work drunk.
Oh, no.
There was an underlying depression that was following me around, that was growing. It also had to do with me being uncomfortable with my sexuality back then. Knowing I was gay, not knowing what to do about it, how to come out the closet. And that episode at work in 1993 in Durban, where my boss found me on the floor, drunk, in the clothes from the night before, and I got sent off to a therapist where my first line to my therapist was, "I'm gay." Like, let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And so began a type of recovery. But by then, addiction is, like they say, a cunning enemy. There were still too many dark places in my life, in my closet, that I hadn't dealt with. And there was a certain time in my life where I really didn't feel a lot of self-love. And that was a time in my life I had a very traumatic incident. I was hijacked and kidnapped and taken along for the joyride.
Oh, my word.
A South African story that happens to many people.
Many people.
I never really dealt with that. A few years later, I was raped at gunpoint by a policeman So that was something I didn't look at properly, and I internalized. And after those kind of trauma and shame were the two things that alcohol could no longer fix. It was
Yes.
It was time for more. Alcohol wasn't doing the trick, so I turned very so-called innocently to drugs. And the
Yes.
first powders I put up my nose, I had a feeling of, a lot of addicts say this and can relate, is like, where have you been all my life? This is what
You felt
I've
free,
been looking.
needy.
Yeah, this is what I've been looking for. And the end came very quickly. In a few years, I was hooked on crystal meth. So that happened in my mid-30s, early 30s, with my own money. I was established. Addiction knows how to eat up your finances. Gratefully, I never spent somebody else's money. I lost only my money. I never stole, borrowed, or begged from other people. And my last day of using was literally kind of like the week all the money had run out.
So it's not like it put you in debt or anything like that.
No, it just wiped out everything I'd worked
you had.
for 15 years. Yeah.
Now, were you diagnosed with ADD or any other mental illnesses, or is that what you felt you were?
Well, no, actually, I don't really understand ADD, and I use the word very incorrectly. So my apologies to anybody who has ADD. It's a condition that needs serious attention and care. What I did have, though, was an underlying depression. From a young child, I would spend hours alone. There was a sense of sadness I often felt, in spite of my circumstances.
Yeah.
And this depression just kept up and just almost haunted me through my life.
So you never dealt with it, in other words?
Didn't deal with it at all.
You used alcohol and drugs to cover it up and
Exactly.
help you deal with day to day. And what exactly was the turning point? What made you realize, nah, enough is enough?
You know what, Shan? It's one of those things where the last night of using, the paranoia takes over. Crystal meth plays with your brain, chemistry, and alters the state of your brain, a beautiful organ that I was abusing. I saw cops outside that weren't there. I was hallucinating things, and a fear crept in. You dancing with death, and a sadness and a pain I've never ever felt before, and it just grew more and bigger and bigger. And I got so desperate that night, all alone in my own head, lying to myself that it wasn't a problem. And then I realized, actually, if something doesn't change, I will die.
Yeah.
And, I was looking down the barrel of a gun, and it felt like it was being pulled every few seconds.
Yeah.
Like it's that fear. And that fear and that horror, it's not fear, it's worse, it's horror.
Horror.
That horror is what propelled me to become so desperate. I call it the gift of desperation.
Yes.
It's a gift that I was given and when you're that desperate, that I will do anything to never ever feel that way again. So that was my last night of using, where in horror, I said, I'll do everything. And I told my brain, we will do everything in our power. And so I threw the book at it.
And what were the steps that you did to become clean?
Well, I phoned someone. I told someone. That's the first thing. And that's always my advice to anybody who's battling with addiction.
Yes.
Tell someone. Tell someone anything that you're
There's
brave
a lot
enough.
of people out there that think that they can't. I mean, they're scared. They don't want people to judge them. They don't know how to actually come out and say, I have a problem, because saying I have a problem, sometimes people, they judge you.
Absolutely, but we all have one person in our lives that we know we can talk to. It could be
Yes.
a teacher, it could be a neighbor, it could be a friend. If you're lucky enough, it's your mother and father,
Yes.
etc., etc. So what I say is reach out to that one person, and don't tell them you've stopped using or you want to stop. Just tell them what's going on.
Yeah.
Just get rid of that shame. Shame is something that if it's left in a cupboard, festers and molds. Bring it
Worse and worse.
Bring it out into the light, bring it out into the sun, and then it dies. And I told someone, and then I told another someone, and I'd heard about a 12-step recovery program that's free, and I went to a meeting.
Okay.
And I actually that's quite funny. I was meant to go to rehab. but they wouldn't accept me because it was a long weekend.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
So they left you out there and they didn't worry about you maybe wanting to turn back to it, or?
Well, you know, they have their systems and processes. I need to respect that. I'm not that special and different. I went out, I was like, okay, well, I can't go to rehab this weekend. Let me go to another meeting. And I went to another meeting and another meeting. And then a few hundred meetings and a few years later, a 12-step program is a way of unpacking and unfolding what addiction is, finding the root cause of it, and a set of tools I was given, and more than anything, a set of friends. Because we've got a saying, the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel.
Yes.
Another addict, we're just a bunch of addicts helping each other. Inspiring each other, helping each other. And in that environment, there's no judgment. In that environment, there's only support. And in that environment, you can only feel good about yourself.
Yes.
So I owe my life to this 12-step recovery program because it was a simple set of rules to live by. Not easy, simple,
no, but
not
nothing
easy.
in life is easy.
You know.
Nothing in life is easy. Now, did you also find that when you stopped using, your friends went away? Because a lot of people say that when they stop drinking or whatever, whenever they're drinking or out having parties and having fun, they've got lots of friends around them. But when they decide, no, I'm going to step back, then all their friends sort of disappear.
So I had two groups. I had my loving, dedicated friends and family, whom I always kept. I was very lucky, close to me, but I hid the using from them. Many people were surprised when they heard that I was in such trouble because I managed to dance between the two. Well, you know, you see your friends Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you then using drugs, binging the rest of the weekend.
Yes.
And those friends that I made through drugs, I cannot tell you, they vanish. It vanished overnight.
Yeah.
I can't even remember their names. They weren't real friends. They weren't real connections. Funny enough, now I have a bunch of connections so deep and so real with huge
benefits to your life.
Huge benefits to my life. And with those people that all were hectic druggies.
Yeah.
So funny that now they are my friends, but they are drug addicts who are not using.
Now, are you not scared of relapsing?
So relapse is a part of life, they say. I haven't relapsed.
How many years have you been clean now?
14 years and 5 months.
Yo.
By the grace of God, one day at a time.
At a time, yes. And I see you've got a book. Is that the reason why you have written this book, to tell your story and to help other people? Can you tell us a bit about it?
Sure. I've never written a book. I sat down one day and I thought I want to talk to people about my experience. And then I thought, well, let me just write down what I want to say. I started writing and I couldn't stop writing. And then the story just came out. And it's my own story, so it's easy to write about yourself.
Yes.
Lucky enough to be picked up by a publisher. And it's something I find very cathartic. It was wonderful to tell my story, put it down on a page, and then trying to help others. I'm most certainly not perfect, and I don't have all the answers. I'm not a professional. I'm not a specialist in the field, and I always tell people that. I'm a storyteller, and this is my story.
Yes.
I am humbled to have this opportunity to have this gift of life that I took so much for granted for so many years.
Yes. And I see that your book is called From Meth to Marathon. Tell us about the marathons and why you decided to go the fitness route to help you stay clean.
So I was this like chain smoking, drinking Greek boy who an energy drink was espresso.
Oh, okay.
And the only exercise I did was in a nightclub. And then when you stop using drugs, you actually get a hell of a lot more energy. Suddenly your brain wakes up.
You don't know what to do with it.
Your body wakes up and you got all this excess energy. And then my partner at the time went for a run. So I was like, let me join him. So I put on these like clubbing sneakers and went for a run. And when you exercise, endorphins are released. And those are free drugs.
Yes.
Okay, your body's saying, here's some drugs for free that are healthy for you. And there's a little high you get. And I was like, this feels good.
Yes.
And so the next day I woke up and I ran again around the block, just once. and then I ran twice, and then before I knew it, I ran a marathon. Before I knew it, I did a full Ironman, and then a second one, and a third one. And it's one of those things where I started improving, my life started improving. Firstly, my brain was coming alive, my spirit was coming alive, my connections with people were coming alive, my family relationships were coming alive,
Yes.
and then my body was coming alive. And so my body just said, let's continue. So I set little goals incrementally. It took me from my first run to my first marathon, took, I think, 6 years. So I aimed low,
Yes.
I took it step by step, and it's been really worth the effort because now I want the best version of myself, spiritually, emotionally, mentally,
physically.
and then physically, and in that
Yes.
order.
Yes.
Because without spirituality, I've
Yeah.
got no hope. Life is about feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
It's about the small victories every day. Like you were saying earlier, it's about the next operation, just the next one.
Yeah.
That's all.
One step closer.
Mm.
Yes. And in the show, we like to give our guests a word that you've got to just say what the first thing is that comes to mind. And today's word is responsibility. Now, for me, responsibility was I have a daughter, and I couldn't give up because what role or impression would that have given to her? So that was my responsibility. For you, what does responsibility look like for you?
Wow. Firstly, I love what you said about you and your daughter, and
Thank
she's lucky
you.
to have you as a mom.
Thank you.
Responsibility for me, addicts often get shamed for not taking responsibility. And it's a very loaded word because on the one side, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I know I need to take responsibility for my life. I know I need to take responsibility for my spiritual development. But nobody asks to become a crystal meth addict. Nobody wants to be hooked on crystal meth or any drug for that matter. I now take responsibility for my life. And the reason I can take responsibility for my life is because I was blessed with a miracle. I'm
Yes.
here by the grace of God. A miracle kept me alive for a penny to drop. I'm not here by accident, and I'm not here by my own responsibility and my own work. And that's where I don't take full responsibility for my recovery. I meet my higher power, God, as whatever you may call him or her, halfway. I rock up for the day, and the rest gets done for me. But I have to rock up. So
Yeah.
yes, there is responsibility for me does mean taking action. But for any addict out there listening or watching, I know how hard it is not to take. Here we go. I said I wouldn't cry. So
It's okay.
I know how hard it is not to take responsibility, because if you're suffering now, I get it. I get it that it's not easy, but keep trying,
Yes.
because a miracle, every person is worth a miracle.
And there's a reason why we are here. And there's a reason why we go through things. The thing that makes me push through is my daughter. She has always been my number one. I think for any good mother out there that can take responsibility and realize that for me as well, what I went through has just made me stronger. It has made me a better person, I think. It has made me into the person I think I'm meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
With everything that you have told me and that you have gone through, I admire that you have come out so strong, that you have wanted to put all of your emotions and your feelings into a book to share with other people. There's not a lot of addicts out there that would openly share what they have gone through, not just from being an addict, but from going through depression, from almost trying to fit in with everybody, from going through a rape with somebody that you should have looked up to. And I admire that you can come out here and share your story with us. And I'd just like to thank you for opening up and being so real and honest with us, that you haven't tried to cover up like a lot of people would try and cover up what they've gone through.
Thank you.
Thank you very,
and
very much.
It's such an honor to be here and to meet you, and for this platform. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm doing this to try and help other people, to motivate and inspire them for them to realize that they're not alone, that tomorrow's a brand new day with brand new opportunities and you can do it.
Yeah.
If you put your mind and your heart and your energy into it, your mind is the most powerful thing. And I think that as long as you've got that, you can get through it.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen. And to everybody out there, just remember, it doesn't matter what you go through. You can go from being a crystal meth addict to a marathon runner. As long as you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. Until next time, take care. Cool. Thank you so much.